Hello, I'm Pippa Evans.
And I'm Sanderson Jones.
And together we created the Sunday Assembly.
It's part atheist church, part foot-stomping show, and 100% celebration of life.
Hi there, I'm Nia Malika Henderson, and this is On Background. British comedians Pippa Evans and Sanderson Jones have taken the atheist community by storm. The Sunday Assembly started as a gathering for non-believers in London earlier this year. It's now being dubbed the Atheist Mega Church, and there will be 30 chapters across the world by the end of this year. But critics are asking why these non-believers feel the need to recreate an institution that they've rejected at its core. I asked founder Sanderson Jones earlier this week. Take a listen. Thanks so much, Sanderson, for joining us today from Australia. Talk to me about where this idea came from. I don't know if it's the idea of a godless church. I don't know if I should use that phrase, but talk to me about where you guys came up with this idea.
Well, we like to think of ourselves as a godless congregation that celebrates life. The phrase atheist church has been bandied around a bit, but we always feel that makes some people feel as though it wouldn't be for them. But we welcome people of all backgrounds. I mean, indeed, the one in Brighton is being set up by a Christian because she looks at it and thinks, oh, that's what I agree to. So the idea came up with us because there's me and my co-founder Pippa. We both took slightly different journeys to it. Right. But then in a car about 2 years ago, we were on the way to a comedy gig. We're both stand-up comedians. And it turned out we both wanted to do something which was sort of like all the best bits of church, but with no religion and awesome songs. And for me, that journey started really about 6 years ago when I was leaving a Christmas Carol concert. And as I left, I thought, oh, there's so many things about this I love. You know, I love the singing together. I love the sort of thinking about improving yourself and helping other people. I love the sort of interesting talks and all the while doing it in community. It's just a shame that in the middle, there's something that I didn't believe in, and that was the God bit.
And tell me about what the reception has been like so far.
Well, the reaction has been, I don't really know the words to use, but totally freaking insane might be the polite way of saying it. Yeah, it's been utterly crazy how many people have just heard about it and said, oh, I've been thinking about doing this all of my life. Now when I go to launch new assemblies, I say, by the way, who here has had this idea before? And about 50% of the congregation put up their hands. It turns out that there was a massive, untapped, latent need to have something which would allow people to go and celebrate their values and to try to sort of have it dedicated to their quest for ultimate meaning. And, you know, we are just very glad that we're able to help people do that. And so we're going to launch a new assembly in Adelaide today, and then tomorrow we're off to Melbourne, then Brisbane, and then in Sydney, and it's really all over the world. People are getting in touch with us saying, yes, please, can I have one of these near me?
Right, and what are these services like? I grew up very, very religious, Pentecostal. My father was a preacher, so, you know, I love gospel music. I imagine you guys aren't playing gospel music. I mean, is there tambourine playing? I mean, what is a service like?
What's the service like? Well, I suppose one thing which Pippa and I really bring to it is because we're from an entertainment background, you know, we've realized that we don't have heaven or hell to get people in. So the service itself has got to be loads of fun. We like to think of it as entertaining, but it's not entertainment. You know, there's a serious moral purpose to it. And so, you know, there's awesome songs. We, you know, a song you can guarantee that will get everyone singing it is Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer. Okay. Because you can't help but get into that.
Yeah. No, that's a good song to rock out to. Yeah.
And so we like to think of it as, you know, we play the sort of songs which if they come on at 2 in the morning and it's a wedding, everyone links arms and belts out. So, you know, yes, we have sung Bonnie Tyler's I Need a Hero.
Okay. Good stuff. So we had a Google Plus chat here where people talked about this whole idea of a godless church. Tim Saxon, this is what he said. This wasn't an awesome, insane reaction like a lot of the things that you've gotten. He says to take the same form and format of religious and theistic churches and apply it to atheistic gatherings cheapens the experience. Y'all can have your little club gatherings, but I have no qualms admitting that I think they're a waste of time, and it's really difficult to celebrate a lack of belief or nothing. You're furrowing your brow as I read that. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm not going to change that guy's mind. I think that's also, I suppose that illustrates probably the way I deal with this is going to illustrate one of the difference between the Sunday Assembly and many atheistic gatherings is that I'm not in the business of changing that guy's mind.
Okay.
I'm not in the business of like saying, oh, he's wrong or anything like that. But I think that I've got loads to celebrate. I mean, that is why I'm doing it. Every single one of my stand-up shows has been about somehow trying to convey this total transcendental wonder at the very fact that we are alive. You come from nothing, you go to nothing. But for 70, 80, maybe even 100 years, if you do nothing fun, you've got this chance where you can love and dance and sing and try and fail and be alive and have this amazing stream of consciousness. I could think about that all day. And for me, that is plenty to celebrate. But I'm not going to be, they can go and do their own thing. We've got our own thing, and we prefer to talk about that rather than bashing other people's beliefs.
And what's your sense? How is this different from, say, a Tony Robbins revival or a get-together or transcendentalism? How is it different, or is it sort of just borrowing from those same feel-good, get in touch with your inner self sort of doctrines?
Well, look, I don't know what happens in a Tony Robbins thingamajig. I reckon, though, that a Tony Robbins gig isn't free to get in. And that's what we emphasize. We say, like all churches, free to get in. In the long run, if people want to be part of it.
Do you pass the donation plate? Is like an offering?
Of course we do.
Yeah,
Otherwise, how do these things operate?
Okay,
Come on.
okay. Well, I'm very familiar with that in churches.
Yeah. We nick all the best ideas from church, and that includes the offering.
Okay.
And so I think the thing which churches are fantastic organizations. And particularly the ones which are being developed some of the ones which have been developed in the US, which are really, if you boil it down, they're amazing community organizations. I don't know if you've read Rick Warren's The Purpose-Driven Church.
I haven't read that, I have to say. I'm one of the only people who haven't.
Well, no, because he's got The Purpose-Driven Life, and
right.
That's about your life. The Purpose-Driven Church is about how to run a church. And what's really interesting is that he says the reason that a lot of churches weren't appealing to people is they just spoke about things which interested them. They wanted to speak about theology. They wanted to speak about heaven and hell and all this stuff. And he said, no, you've got to go and meet people where there are their felt needs. That was this idea of like, well, for most people who you want to reach with the word of God, they're in fact worrying about, are they going to be able to have a job? How do they have relationships? All of these things which are actually real life problems. And so he's got this entire book about meeting people's needs.
Right.
Admittedly, he thinks their real need is Jesus Christ, but we just think that their real needs are their needs. And they're amazing organizations for trying to help people meet their needs. Did you know that if you go to church, you're more likely to live longer, be healthier, wealthier, and happier?
I mean, it sounds a bit like, not only a practical application of religion, but also the sort of social justice strain that you see in a lot of religions as well.
Yeah, that's the thing which we are working on. It's one of the things in London is because we've had so many people get in touch with us saying they wanted to help start their own assembly, we haven't been able to get stuck into the helping people outside as much yet because we've been too busy trying to help people start them.
Right.
But next year in London, we're going to really concentrate on the second part of our motto, because we've got an awesome motto: live better, help often, and wonder more. And we're going to really concentrate on the help often part.
So you say that you stay away from the kind of idea and phrase of atheism and atheists. What is an atheist in your estimation? Is it just somebody who doesn't believe in God, or somebody who is anti-religion?
I think that's a very good definition. You just hit it there. I mean, I don't believe in God, but I can go entire services at the Sunday Assembly without mentioning religion or atheism because it's got no bearing on my life. I'm alive. You know, that's the thing which excites me. That I'm not comparing myself to someone else's beliefs. We've got enough to talk about on our own terms instead of sort of going to, you know, busy bashing someone else.
Right. Certainly a growth we've seen here in the U.S. In atheism. Have some graphics here from 2000 to 2012. In 2007, 1.6% of the U.S. population, which is negligible in many ways, said that they were atheists. In 2012, it was 2.4%. And it says here that actually 7% of Americans who do not believe in God or universal spirit, but they don't call themselves atheists. It does seem like people don't want to use the A word in describing themselves.
Yeah, there are some people who've got issues with it. And I mean, I think that's ludicrous. I'm an atheist. I've got utterly no, worries talking about that. But what I often do say is that, you know, the not believing in God part is the most boring part of atheism. Like the great thing, I mean, I think that, you know, for me at least, atheism is the diving board, life is the swimming pool. That's where we concentrate on talking about life a lot more. And but the part of your one part of our sort of target demographic is the people who are just non-religious,
right?
Because, you know, and that's a far bigger, you know, pie. And there's all manner of people who don't go to church, and you know, we think that, you know, we don't check people's beliefs, and we think that we know there are lots of religious people who do come to Sunday Assembly.
Is it your sense that this growth, and there is some growth of the religiously unaffiliated, as you said, globally, 2007, 15.3% in the U.S., and in 2012 was 19.6% in the U.S. Why is that happening? Is that sort of an implicit critique of organized religion? What does it say about our culture now?
You've got to ask me one of those questions which I'm unqualified to answer. You have to remember that I am a stand-up comedian who is rapidly learning other things. I have got no idea why people are leaving the church in the US. I could invent a reason. Yeah, look, I don't know why people are leaving the church. It's probably mostly because of the Selffurnishings.
Right, or maybe, you know, maybe it's people don't like labels and they want to sort of be, you know, independent. I mean, it's sort of the growth of the idea of being an independent rather than a Democrat or a Republican.
I mean, certainly one thing which has worked with the Sunday Assembly really well is that we don't use those labels. I mean, this idea of the atheist church, you know, it's quite handy as people see it in a headline and then they click on it, and then, you know, it makes people read about it, which is great because we just want to get out there. However, when we actually describe ourselves, you know, on our website, we don't use the phrase humanist, we don't use the phrase atheist, secular, rational, you know, all of these words which are traditionally associated with, you know, this sort of thing, because in fact, like those labels, you think that they make more people interested, but most often, you know, every label just makes one other person go, that's not for me. And, you know, I think it's far more exciting to talk about the values which lie behind it than, you know, this label or that label. There's a South Park, which I haven't seen, but so many people have told me about, where it is, I don't know, it's like years in the future, and there's no religion, but there's a war between 3 different atheist groups over what they should call themselves. And that is often how it seems to, you know, work out.
Yeah, denominations for all. Sanderson Jones, the founder, one of the founders of the Sunday Assembly. Thank you so much, sir, for talking to me today. Good luck.
Thank you very much. You have a super day.
You too.